This is Celebrate at 19 Hawthorne, the podcast, where we explore the creative process of planning your wedding. Okay, guys, welcome back. Podcast number 2. We are here with Ashley from Hutch, and it is springtime, and we are excited for spring. So everyone, spring, flowers, it was the perfect cue to bring you here first. And I think when people think wedding, they think flowers.
Thank you.
So you are our first guest.
Awesome.
Bum, bum, bum.
I know, right?
It's not scary. Don't
No
be
pressure.
scared.
It'll be great.
Or all the pressure.
It'll be great.
So, Ashley, we're going to ask you questions, and you're going to tell us all about your store, a little bit of history about you, working with your kids and your husband, all the good things.
Awesome.
So, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your business.
Okay. Yeah. So I am 36 from Delphus. Lived there my whole life. I married my husband in 2012, and we have 2 kids, boy-girl twins. So
Twins.
And how old are they?
yeah, they're 6.
So, raising twins, how's that?
It was hard.
I bet. And boy and girl.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
not an easy task.
No, it was fun though. I mean, I don't think I took as much time off of work as I probably should have. Now knowing that, but also, I mean, they come with me.
That's so
Quite
cool.
entertaining.
And when they get married, they're probably like going to get married within like 3 months of each other.
Yeah.
No panic.
I know.
No panic, because you have to think about those weddings.
I know. It's funny to watch
Start a
them.
savings account.
Yeah.
College and wedding fund.
Yes.
For twins. Woo. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about, so you are the owner of Hutch, but also more than that I don't think people know. So tell us a little bit about Hutch, but then also all the other things that you do, your other store, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we bought the store in 2012, and it really wasn't on my radar. I went to college at BG and was in tourism and event planning, and then went, kind of realized that working events and maybe like really late nights wasn't what I really wanted to do. So I started looking on how can I be involved in the events, but not necessarily be the coordinator,
Right.
to be, to take down events at 2 a.m. and whatnot.
Right.
So I found a part-time job in Findlay, actually, working at a flower shop, and really liked it. So then I moved back home because I was driving to Findlay every day.
Yeah.
And I then got a job in Delphus, actually at Hutch, and it just worked out that she wanted to sell. And I was 23. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea.
Yeah, that's scary as a 23-year-old. Hey,
Yeah.
you want to buy my business?
And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. I have no idea, but I just know I can probably make this work, and I like it. So that's all that mattered at the time,
So how many years of experience did you have before you bought the business?
Probably a year and a half.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's not
I just-
scary at all.
Good for
I know,
you.
but I just ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Well, and
didn't know.
had the confidence as a 23-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
let's do this.
Yeah, I think I just knew I wanted to work for myself. And
Were you married at that point?
no, actually, of course, because we like to do things all at the same time. We bought the shop in October of 2012, and then we got married in April of 2013.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You
So
just decided to
bought a
like
store.
bite it all off at one time.
Yeah, so we bought a store, planned a wedding in a year.
That's
love that.
It was great.
incredible.
So, yeah, and then in 2020, we decided one flower shop wasn't what we were made for. We wanted to do more. So then we had the opportunity to buy another flower shop in 2020. So now we have 2, and we do things in 2s.
Yeah. But you also really kind of have 3, because you tell us a little bit about what you do with the hospital.
Oh, and so I'm very retail minded. I enjoy retail. I enjoy merchandising. So I also am the purchaser and merchandiser for Lima Memorial Hospital gift shop. So
cool.
yeah, so when I'm not at Hutch or at Fettig's or the hospital, I teach dance in the evening. So
you don't have
Busy.
any time off, is what you're telling me.
And the
You-
mama raising too.
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Make it work. We
Yeah.
get it. We get
Right.
it.
Right. That's just so cool. I didn't know about the Lima Memorial.
Yeah, so I've
So,
been
wow.
doing that for 3 years now. So
Nice. So tell us a little bit about, so you have your shop in Delphus, and you're right there behind the high school.
yeah.
And then tell us about Fettig's. What is Fettig's?
So Fettig's is it's a flower and gift store, but we do mostly flowers over there. We actually just moved into a brand new location in January. We moved across the street, so it had been there for 40 years, and we just needed more space, more, a better layout. We needed a walk-in cooler, so we moved over there. So we do mostly like home deliveries. We work with a lot of funeral homes, that type of the floral industry. We're doing some weddings, but not as primarily as Ivy Hutch's.
And this is in Van Wert.
In Van Wert,
downtown Van Wert.
Yeah, so it's about a 20-minute drive for me if I go, and I bounce back between stores about every day.
Wow.
So it's a lot of car time, but also, I mean, that's my downtime.
Your
Car
quiet
time is when you
time.
get
Yep.
things finished.
Yes, and I think about a lot of things, but it's really good. It's taught me a lot because having 2 stores is an entirely different experience than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
We've been in the flower industry for 10 years at that time and thought, okay, well, we do this at Ivy Hutch.
And do it very well, right? You guys do it great.
Yeah, we try really hard and we like it. So I thought, let's just kind of keep growing. And then I was all wrong because every flower shop is so different in what they do and their customers are different. So it's been a really interesting challenge, I think.
So you mentioned that at your Delphus store, it's more weddings than your Van Wert store.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about because I do think it's interesting, the cultural differences in, Delphus, big Catholic community. You're obviously right there behind the church, so it obviously makes sense. The culture of floral from a standpoint of different communities and in the wedding industry, some communities, it's all fresh floral, no matter what. That's what you're doing because that's what everyone else does. But other communities, it's silks and more decoration and draping. Every community kind of has
their theme.
And I don't think a lot of people see that. Photographers see it, and you see it obviously because you're doing it. But I don't think that people see the cultural differences in weddings, and they're huge.
Yeah,
from Delphus to Van Wert is a huge difference.
It is crazy because I can. And I don't mean it in a negative way at all. I can always tell a difference between a Van Wert inquiry and a Delphus inquiry just because of their questions that they ask.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. The Van Wert bride is way more relaxed in a way that their timeline is so much different. They'll email me. I have a bride, we have one, she emailed me 2 weeks before.
Oh,
and I was
goodness.
okay, we can definitely help you. That's no problem. And
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, my color's blue.
Okay.
Tell me more. But she was just like, you know what, go for it. They're a lot smaller than the Delphus weddings.
Yeah.
And we get pulled to Putnam County a lot too. And those weddings are even bigger than Delphus weddings. But again, you kind of go back to that traditional big Catholic where everyone gets a corsage type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus, our Van Wert brides are a little bit more, it's very small, intimate, quick. That's what we see from a flower's perspective.
Yeah.
That was really interesting for me when I started here because I had primarily shot large Catholic weddings in Delphus and in Putnam County.
Yeah.
And when I started here to learn that not all weddings are
800
huge
people?
weddings.
Yeah.
Because those Catholic weddings are so big because they have large families. But then when I started here, I was like, oh, there's 6 people at this wedding and they're okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just it was astounding to me coming from a big family myself. I was like, this is when people talk about cultural differences in weddings, the fact that you're still in Northwest Ohio and from one tiny town to the next, it makes a difference.
It does.
In decorating and floral and photography and timelines even because, if you're shooting a big Delphus wedding, it takes you 25 minutes to shoot a family afterwards.
Yeah.
Where, if there's 6 people, mom, dad, and grandma, you pop them up there, you're done. Family pictures are done.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, this is different.
Well,
we
from
can
a
eat it half an hour earlier.
A food aspect, I had always done small weddings. So when I got my first Putnam County and they were 600-700 people, I was like, but that doesn't fit in the Knights of Columbus Hall. What are you doing? They would rotate them in and out. First section of people go, and that was just crazy to me. But you have to invite everybody. You have to invite. Now, when somebody does a wedding like that, are you doing flowers on the table? Are you doing what's? Because they spend so much money on having to feed everybody. That's such a big part of their budget.
Right.
On average, what would flowers for that wedding kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of depends what their priority is. And
Yeah.
usually if they have a really big wedding, we're not doing flowers on every table.
Yeah.
A good alternative, they alternate different styles, usually helps. And traditionally, if their wedding's that big, they have like 7,000 bridesmaids. Right. So a lot of their budget
Right.
goes to their
Bouquets
bridal
for
party.
them, yeah.
Which I value. I think that's one of the more important parts to spend your money. So I'm always encouraging to take care of your bridal party first and
Yeah.
then think about your reception just from a floral standpoint, because those are what you're going to hang up in your house.
Right. Those are the
know.
photos, right, that you're going to hold on to that are important.
Yeah, so it is, but I don't think people understand how quickly, or they don't realize really how quickly, if you do a boutonniere for every Eucharistic minister and every greeter and every door opener and every program passer outer,
Oh, yeah.
and the list goes on, and then they're like, this is a little bit more expensive than I thought it might be,
Right.
but those things add up if you have that big.
The big.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know, it kind of goes back and forth.
In your opinion, from a reception standpoint, because obviously that's where we are, from the storage room, when it comes to the flowers in the reception hall, like what do you find is the standard in Northwest Ohio? But also, what are brides doing as far as like, is there a centerpiece on every table? And if I have fresh florals, like, is it okay to mix and do, some candles with a small one and then a bigger piece and then potentially a large piece? Like, what are you seeing from a standpoint in the industry right now? And where do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I do. I see a lot of different, like, say they choose 3 styles or so, something large. I do think people are going away from large, like tall as in large centerpieces. I think, again, they eat up part of your budget. So especially that is something that I think they're cutting out. But we really encourage them, it's at least myself, in low centerpieces, alternating between 3 styles, one being more floral. But I do also want them to do something larger floral, but maybe not as many as they think they need. Even if it's 10
Yeah.
on, between 50 tables, if it's big enough, it'll make an impact across the room.
Right.
We're also seeing the bottle trend where like they're all doing the
Little stems in them. Yeah.
And I like that. I still think it needs more oomph to it, especially for a room like we have here, like you guys have here, is, you need that color if that's what you're going for. But even if it is white, it still brings like life and, there's just something about flowers again. I mean, I'm a little biased.
Right. You
but,
love flowers, right?
but it is. I mean, and it's also your wedding. So you knock on wood, hopefully aren't doing this every day. But, it is a special occasion. Yeah. I think people sometimes, they think too much about budget or experience, and that's all important. But again, it's just that softness that it brings, and, it elevates the experience.
Right.
I don't
And
know.
it should be more like what you want. If you want that big installation piece, then try to make it happen. It doesn't mean it has to be the $7,000 installation piece, but like you can do things with greens and, flowers that aren't as expensive, which we'll get into, that make it just as impactful so they can still get what they want.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, and we want to talk about bang for your buck. When it comes to flowers, which I all know is a hard topic because, like, obviously everybody wants a ranunculus, like, but that can't happen. So is it okay if the carnation is 30 feet in the air and just provide color to have the carnation? Like, talk about bang for the buck when it comes to flowers.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say, I think carnations are the one that everyone looks down on them, but now, I mean, they're growing such unique colors anymore. They are blending colors. You can find all kinds of different shades, probably the shade that you're looking for in a carnation more than you will almost any other flower. So,
and I don't know why people hate on carnations. It's Ohio State flower. Like, we should all be like, carnation!
So let's do it.
Doesn't happen.
Is it just because it's so common, though? Because when you go to the grocery store, like, that's what you see, and necessarily they're not, like, the most beautiful example. Because I think that's what I didn't realize before weddings is, like, there's a difference in between the Walmart flowers or the, Superstore and then what you bring. You know, like those carnations aren't the same things. They're not even in the same planet of each other.
I blame it on Valentine's Day in junior high. because we all gave each other carnations.
Yes.
And it's like
$2
those
carnation for
cheap
everybody.
flowers that you got in 8th grade
Right,
from
right.
your crush.
Yeah.
I don't want any of those, but it's really like, those can be magical.
Yeah.
I also think too, like how they were used, and again, maybe in like the 80s, I don't know.
Yeah.
Were like very like, I don't know how to explain it, like spaced out and like airy. And now like the carnation trends are, you wouldn't even know it's a carnation. I can almost
Yeah.
guarantee you. Yeah, because they're like bundled and draped and used.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So
yes,
the moral of the story is don't hate on carnations.
don't hate on carnations. I actually love them. One of my favorite flowers is a mini carnation. I know I sound like a dork because I have a million to pick from.
You have used them here, and I'm always
Yeah.
utterly shocked
Yeah.
with how good they look.
They're again, sometimes it's the perfect color. So that's I think again, allowing and leaning into your vendor and letting them do their thing and understanding that they are not going to sabotage your floral dreams
'Cause your name's on
because,
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm going to give you a carnation.
Now,
You know.
you had talked about like a 50 table venue where so to do that, talk about the people on your team, like how to fill a beautiful venue like Hawthorne with flowers on every table. Like how much of your team, how long does that take? What's the timeline for that week?
Yeah, so we get flowers in traditionally on a Monday.
Okay.
Which everyone is normally panicked when they hear that because they assume it's a perishable item, it's going to immediately die.
There you go.
But we obviously have done this before. We know
Yeah.
what to do, so that's good. But we get flowers in on Monday. We clean, condition, kind of wait until they're ready. We kind of play in and out of the cooler, whether we want them open or closed or how tight we want them. And then we start working with them when they're about right. Usually that's about Wednesday.
Okay.
My personal timeline has now changed. I have office hours of like 9:30 p.m. to like 1 a.m. again when the kids are sleeping.
Yeah.
It's just when I like to work because I still like to really have my hands on all those bouquets.
Yeah.
Even though we have a fantastic team, there's just still something about like the tradition, me making the bride's bouquet.
Yeah.
And then come Thursday, we're doing final touches. Friday, we're really getting like, we need to have everything done by
Yeah.
Friday. And then Saturday morning, we usually come in the morning. Sometimes it's just me and my husband. Sometimes it's a couple of the girls. It kind of depends what we have going on that week.
Yeah.
And then we personally love to be set up by noon. That just ensures us that if something goes wrong, we can address it before the wedding.
Yeah.
If something needs replaced, I mean, we look at all that stuff when we drop flowers off.
Yeah.
So
And do you only do one wedding per Saturday, or do you one or two, or what's your
I
sweet
like our
spot?
capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to do about 3. I can handle about 3, I should
Yeah.
say. We are careful about how big each one is,
Mm-hmm.
but the trouble with flowers is they come in with a consultation, and that doesn't mean that's how big their wedding's going to be. Because again, they may find that, something's out of budget, or they're going to do their centerpieces themselves. And then 2 months later, they're in a little bit of a panic and they're like, hey, can I add 50 tables?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say no,
Right.
you know, and be like, yeah, we'll do it. So that's usually, like I said, about 3. We don't always deliver all of them.
Okay.
Sometimes we just do a ceremony reception for one of our brides that weekend, and then we'll do just like maybe ceremony flowers for 2 others. It just kind of depends. Obviously, we know what weekends are going to be like our heavy ones, and we just have to do
Man
it.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
So-
I think something that's important that people don't realize is you mentioned cooler. Like these flowers, when you come in, are just like food, and they live in a cooler until you get them out and work on them, and you make the arrangement, and then they go back in a cooler. And something that I think is really nice here is we have a full walk-in cooler that can just be used for florals. So if Ashley did have 3 or 4 weddings that weekend, and she needed the cooler space, which I know the new shop has even
Yeah.
more cooler space, like she has brought the flowers early, left them here in our cooler, and then comes back on Saturday and makes sure
And does it all.
everything's perfect. And just some flowers require more cooler time than others, especially depending on the temperature outside.
Yeah, again, yeah, and that's also like some of the logistics of Saturday mornings could depend on the weather here. If we're doing something out at the gazebo, I mean, that throws your whole timeline off, and
Right.
you don't know that until Saturday morning when you get here
Yeah,
sometimes.
it could be raining, it could be
Right.
windy,
Yeah.
and you want your whole hydrangea archway, and it's like,
Yeah, totally.
that's not going to happen. It's 98 degrees outside.
exactly.
Can't do that right now.
Yeah. So usually we try to prepare for that, and
Yeah.
like especially in our flower recommendation choices. But also at the same time, flowers are pretty hardy. So if they're done right, and we know how we put them together initially, then we usually can give you an idea of like, okay, this is the best time to set it up. It'll be great, all that. So
I want to talk about the after because that's what I get to deal with.
I am passionate about
Yes,
the after.
let's talk about the after. So you've spent all this money on flowers. They're stunning. The last thing that I want to do is personally take all of your flowers out to the dumpster and throw them away.
And I don't want to know it.
And Ashley doesn't want to know when that happens because she cries when I tell her. But there's so many options for people. One of the options that I've seen that's great, and you do it a lot, is you put them in a plastic container that's beautiful and affordable so guests can take them with them. You know, you're giving Aunt Susie, poor Aunt Susie, we're bringing her
Aunt
up
Susie.
again. We send her home with some flowers, and she loves it. And they last for a week or two afterwards if they're watered properly. But another thing that I'm seeing a lot more of recently is they will select a person, whether it's an aunt or an uncle or someone, you know, a bridesmaid, who takes the flowers that people don't want and takes them to the hospital or takes them to a nursing home. And it brings someone else joy. So your day, you get the joy out of them that day, but then you are spreading love and kindness with something that you've already enjoyed and your guests have enjoyed, because they're not dead the next day.
Exactly.
Some might be, but they're not. You know, and depending on weather, like they can last a while and they can bring someone else joy. So tell me about it.
Yeah,
Tell me about it, Ash, because I know you got a passion for it.
I do, because I think honestly nothing can be more stressful than you just had this great day.
Yeah.
Everything went perfect, and then the lights turn on and people are leaving and you're looking around at this hall that's now your responsibility to clean up.
Yeah, and it can be depressing. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
like,
it's
oh, it's over.
and now
Exactly.
I have to throw all these beautiful flowers that I dreamed about my whole life away.
Yeah, and I think that's also where flowers kind of get the bad rap, is they see the end, right? Like when the music ends.
Right. You've only used it for
X
8
number of
hours.
Yeah.
Right.
So I really talk about that in my consultations with my brides. It's just educating your helpers, you know, the people that are helping you clean up, and your guests to know that it's okay. Because some people, as a guest, they're like, I'm not going to take this because I feel
Right.
weird about just
Well, I guess
walking out with the centerpiece.
Yeah, I would
So-
be worried about like the vessel that it came in. Like if
Yeah.
it belonged to, you know,
Ivy
that
Hutch
the
or
flower
something.
person or the rental company or something. So like, is that something that a couple could tell, like put on their invite or something? Or like, how would you
I think it should be on the table, like
Okay.
for the guests, because then you might not know who's sitting at a table with that particular centerpiece, because maybe not all of them that will be given away.
Gotcha.
But I think, again, just knowing that it's okay, even like a cute little tag that said like, thanks for coming, please take this home. Please, someone from the table, take this home at the end of the night.
That's cute.
We've
You know,
even
like that would
seen-
be
That's
cute.
cute.
We've even seen like people do a flower bar at the
Yeah.
end of the night where there is like a vessel. If they don't want to take a whole centerpiece, like they can go around and pick the ones they want and then have a cute little plastic something and take it and it's there. And I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the whole thing, it comes down to like planning ahead and knowing that that's not really an obstacle.
Because it can also become your favors.
Yeah.
That's what I think's cool is people don't, you know, people are always like, oh, favors, koozies. We will choose koozies.
We're eminent
It
with
can
our
be
face.
more than just koozies. Like it can be like you spend all the money on the flowers, let the people take them home. That's their favor.
Right.
And then they don't have like to look at your face on the refrigerator with some weird favor for the rest
Yeah.
of their lives and feel guilty when they put it in the
away.
trash.
Yeah.
Right.
I think too, also that would then justify doing fresh flowers, because also you have the same thing as if you do artificial, you have all of that then you're really like, should I throw this away or do I try to
Right.
sell this?
Yeah, there's
Or-
like there's all this after that you have to think about. That like your wedding is done, you want to go on your honeymoon. Mom and dad don't want to deal with it. They
Right.
truly need a honeymoon as well because
Yeah.
they're probably just as exhausted, and so is their
But
wallet.
people don't think about it until the lights
No.
turn on.
Yeah.
And then
and unless
it's like
you hire a decorator who comes and gets it, like it's your responsibility
Yeah.
to figure out what to do with all this stuff.
Yeah.
and
I do-
usually it has to be gone that night. Like an event in a venue aspect. Like
Yeah.
you have to clear it out.
yeah. I feel like I learned that lesson when I got married.
Yeah.
You know, and my parents were advocates of like, the end of the night, I'm leaving too. You know, they didn't want to stay and clean up. So it was something I started to think about. So then I started to think like, okay, how can I make this easier for brides? Then we started doing the plastic containers and the such and, you know, those kind of ideas. So I think it can be a really good thing and really justify the reason for fresh flowers.
And I saw a clip recently, a TikTok, I'm not sure what it was, where someone talked about that flowers are supposed to be temporary. I'm sure you've seen it. It's the
Yes.
best thing I've ever heard.
I reposted it. Yeah, because
they're talking to Drew
yeah.
Barrymore, and he's like, you know, flowers are supposed to make you live in the here and now. They're not supposed to last 2 weeks. They're not supposed to be there 3 weeks before. Like, they're a here and now product to make you live in the moment and enjoy the moment. And if there's any advice that I can give with a wedding day, like, that is the advice that I would have to give. It's like, be in the moment, enjoy the flowers in the moment, enjoy your dancing, enjoy your guest. Like,
It's
stop
supposed to be
stressing.
special. Like,
If it's a
supposed
little
to be
messy,
a once in a lifetime.
it's okay. Like, if your flower situation is a little expensive, like, it's okay. You're probably, hopefully, never going to have to do that again.
Yeah.
And I think people get so caught up in the budget and the money and the
Right.
all that is very important, and I get it, and it's things you have to think about. But hopefully you're doing it once, and you want to enjoy it. You want it to be special.
Exactly. And if you have a good vendor and you express your concerns and you show them where you want to be as far as budget, as far as goals or vision, like if your vendor is as good as they should be, they're going to do that for you one way or another. I mean, we have brides that come to us that have a very specific budget, and usually there's a way we can provide the same vision with knowing what to substitute and what to show them instead of having like getting hung up on a flower.
Right. And the specific cost of that one flower. Right.
Exactly.
So when it comes to budget, and I try to have the bride and groom's back. That's my job. And you guys are obviously vendors. As we're talking about budget, everyone wants these beautiful, big installations. Obviously, that depends on the trends, and we'll get into trends a little bit for this season. But this space, 19 Hawthorne, allows you to have these big installations, whether that's down at the ceremony and then you bring those up, or it's something hanging from the ceiling. Talk about big installations, Ash. I know you love them personally.
I love if they make the impact. I don't think you need a bunch of them.
Okay.
I think, a couple done well, maybe talking about how you can utilize it twice.
There you go.
I am a little bit more of a realistic, I am very honest with the brides as far as like, here's what I would spend my money on. Again, take it or leave it. But I do think they take time, and for someone who knows what they're doing with them, they can be expensive, because it's not just putting flowers up there. You have to have something structurally to hold them. Most of them are done at the very last minute because I can't make that too much ahead of time, depending if it's draping off the mantle or whatnot. So I think they're done well. I think in a space this big, they are necessary. I think even just one, again, will really go far. Sometimes we get big, crazy ideas, and then we kind of show them the cost. And I think they're surprised because they see this beautiful Instagram picture that they just scrolled past.
Correct.
And it's great.
Thank you, styled shoots.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great, but I also think there's a way to go about it that's realistic, but still beautiful. So you have that feeling and that, when you walk in the room.
Now, if there is an installation that you would like, or that they would like to move so they could get a double purpose out of it, whose job is that to move that from, like, if you have something down at the ceremony site and it needs to be moved up here, who's taking care of that?
Yeah, so that's also something we, again, in my planning part, that's a huge passion of mine to bring that up, because in reality, we don't stay between ceremony and reception. But I do think people are intimidated by sometimes things to move, and they see this big flower tower and they're like, I'm not touching that.
Right.
But we educate them on how to move it. We show them what we make it out of. We show them how to move it.
And they're a lot more durable than you think.
Yes, they are. And I think that's what people are afraid that, like, they saw a flower fall out on the way up and they're like, oh, it's ruined.
Yeah. Just shove it back in.
Yes, exactly. So I understand the intimidation because they don't do it every day.
Right.
And I can talk so casually about it because we make flowers all day long.
Well, because flowers are delicate, right? We are taught to think that flowers are this very delicate thing, they're not.
They're a lot more hardy than you think.
Well, before I started jamming them into cakes, I was like, I was nervous. So I mean, but that's a big concern with people, is ruining the pretty expensive thing.
So then when we tell them, like, okay, assign an aunt or someone to help guide, maybe a couple gentlemen, to just carry them up.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay. you know, we even see that when we ask people if they want to like pick up their flowers, they're like, oh no, you know?
Yeah.
So I agree. That is something to think about. But again, if you have a plan, if those people know that is their job afterwards, it will go so smooth. And we can show them.
As a venue, like we talk to Ashley and we usually know who that person is that's moving them up. So if it is a big piece and they don't want to necessarily carry it up the amphitheater steps, like we can put it on the golf course, their golf cart, they can ride with it, bring it up, they bring it in, we can get it set and it's done. So we help with that process a lot as well. And that's the joy of having staff here from a venue standpoint is like, we'll make sure it looks good. And like, believe it or not, I can arrange some flowers. So like if some pieces do fall out, like we can fill a hole, you know, because her team isn't here to do that. And at the end of the night, like we're going to most likely, you know, say you can keep it here or whatever, because then Ashley will just come pick it up the next week.
Yeah. And two, I think if we know a piece is going to be moved, we obviously think about that from an engineering standpoint of like, okay, they're going to carry this on its side. Let's make sure it's secured in this way. So we've done it a handful of times now, and just moving them, getting them here, moving them around, we've learned some things. So
what is a floral trend that you're seeing that you like, and some of the things that are like popping up for the next year that you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is a little different. I like it.
Yeah. I like the aisle flowers. Like I would love, I mean, again, no money. If I could just pick whatever I wanted, like flowers down that amphitheater steps would be so pretty. I've seen like, and maybe it's a trend that I'm just seeing, like our brides, usually I love our brides to death, but sometimes this part of Ohio gets like 2 years behind like a trend that I saw happen. But like where they poke the flowers like directly into the ground is something I'm really seeing. That is very interesting. I like it. Again, you have no vessel involved. They just they just poke a little stick in the ground and then put the stem in. Yeah, it's very cool, very gardeny. So I'm excited to try that. I also have seen where people like instead of going really high with flowers, and like on these big arches, they're doing like intimate circles around the
little
couple.
meadow kind of thing.
Like I'm all here for that.
Have you seen like the gardens in between the tables?
Yes,
so like they
the
take
center.
like 8-foot tables and they take 4 of them, and then in the middle it's like a garden. I'm like, that is genius. No one's gonna touch it at the end of the night. It's easy cleanup. Like from a venue standpoint, hallelujah. I don't have to get the ladder out, the lift out. Like amazing.
Right.
Celebrate everything at 19 Hawthorne Wedding and Event Venue. Centrally located in the heart of Northwest Ohio, 19 Hawthorne is the place to welcome family and friends as you celebrate life's most important moments. Our mission is to create sophisticated luxury in a timeless, natural setting. Our desire is to drive the creative spirit forward, creating an environment that guests will remember for years to come. When you and the people you love celebrate with us, together we establish unforgettable memories. Create the perfect day of joy and celebration. Learn more at 19hawthorne.com.
Well, the one you said about lining, that would be such a, then go pick your bouquet, you know, because they're not having to take it from anything. They can just go outside and pick their little bouquet. Okay, do it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I've even seen when they, like where they line the whole aisle down there. We had one bride do it. They lined the aisle with flowers, and then she had 10 guys, which were amazing. And as soon as that wedding was over and they were up that aisle, those guys moved all of those in, and those became her centerpieces on the table. She had like corresponding post-it notes that matched. So like if you carried up flower number 6, it went on table 6.
And you were done.
She knew she was organized, and those guys did it. And I was like, this is magical. Because like she spent one cost and her ceremony looked amazing, but also the centerpieces, it was like, this was genius.
Yeah, I love
like,
that.
Like, which teacher mom came up with that idea? Because they were organized.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. And who was babysitting the groomsmen to make sure that they didn't get so snockered?
It wasn't the groomsmen. She
there
had
you go.
really good uncles.
There you go. So
Again,
that makes more
pre-planning,
sense.
that's where that comes in. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
So tell us about like staying relevant in the industry and like your inspiration and like, where do you go get inspired about flowers in the 21st century?
Yeah, I mean, social media obviously is always helpful, but again, you also see those like somewhat unrealistic things that you have to then translate into Northwest Ohio versions of those. I go to market once, sometimes twice a year. We go down to Atlanta. That's mostly gift, but we see a lot of displays, a lot of cool like trends, color schemes, things like that. But honestly, we get flowers in on a truck every week. So I can just go out there. It feels very like, again, I kind of take it for granted because I do it every week.
Yeah.
But just this like semi full of flowers, and we just
That's crazy.
go out there and pick
Just
what we
pulls
want.
up like a garden pulls
Yeah.
up, and Ashley
Yeah.
gets to magically go be Cinderella and like
Yeah.
pick her flowers
like
out.
saying it out loud, I do kind of realize how much I take that for granted that I just get to see like buckets of flowers everywhere.
That's so cool. I'm envisioning that, and that just seems like such a
It is.
cool thing.
And let's talk about like flowers and cakes. Obviously, you're
Yeah.
both here. So like if you want to put fresh florals on your cake, obviously like some flowers are poisonous, some flowers you shouldn't do that. Like what does that look like if I'm a bride and groom and I want, some sort of piece on my floral cake installation shoved into the cake? Like, do I talk to April? Do I talk to you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So from my perspective, and actually we probably never talked about this like together before.
That's why we're
No,
here.
I remember calling you when I first started doing wedding cakes. It was one of my first weddings that I had with you, and I was like, "What do we do here?" And you were like, I just tell them, have them send me the picture and you the picture, and then I'll just leave them there. And that's why you're actually one of my favorite flower people, because a lot of times they just leave like a clump on the table for me, but you leave it in a vase or water or something, and it's like specifically labeled for me, so there's no like miscommunication. But I always tell them, like, it doesn't have to be the cake that I'm designing, but I want you to pick out how they're arranged on the cake, and then that's the picture that I want you to send to me and to Ashley, and then that way you know what to leave me, and I know then how to put them on the
Yeah.
cake so they look like that picture is supposed to be. But yeah. Do they ever ask for flowers and you're like, no, that will kill somebody?
Not too much.
Not too much.
More of my question is, do you want cake flowers, and who's your baker?
There you go.
Because that makes a difference. to
Yeah.
me. I also then know who to reach out to if I have a very if their cake design is very out of this world.
Yeah.
But normally from our perspective, I don't like to touch your guys' cakes. I would rather just let you guys do it.
Like, here's the flowers, let the baker put
Yeah.
them on the
Yeah.
cake. I
Exactly.
agree.
So sometimes I'll have the bride pick them up ahead of time if that's the request from the baker. Usually we leave them right at the reception, so
Yeah.
it's pretty nice and simple. But yeah, usually either then a sketch or a picture or something. But again, that's normally my question is, but who's the baker? 'Cause then I know what to do.
Right. So if given an endless budget, these are always the fun things I like to hear about. Endless budget, how would you decorate 19 Hawthorne? Because it is a big space. It's intimidating. There's a lot of white. There's a lot of windows. Like, ceremony aside, because obviously there's only a couple things that you can do for a ceremony. But inside, like, people, I think, fall into this trend of like, I'm going to use your floral stands. I will put a giant piece on them.
Yeah.
I will have some floating candles, and that is how we will decorate. And
Yeah.
welcome to every wedding in Northwest Ohio.
Yes.
So, like, what if you could do something crazy, if you could do something cool or something different, what would you do to decorate our space?
Yeah, I actually probably wouldn't use the mantle as a focal place. I would love to set the bride and groom in the middle of the room under this beautiful, elaborate, insane floral tent, if you will, and then have their guests around them. Again, I think I love the mantle and it's amazing, but I think people get it's the only way to set it up.
Right. Like, I always want to just see a seating area in front of the mantle.
Yeah.
And then have
And
the
then-
focal part somewhere else. And
Yeah.
so many people, just because of how we set it up and the ease, we always just do the head table in the middle of the
Right.
thing in the front. But I'm like you can do different things.
Mm-hmm.
We see it. And Chad will be the first one to roll his eyes because it's not as easy. But talk me into it, Brian.
Yeah, I will.
Talk me into it.
Yeah, and I think too they go to that because sometimes they have a lot of bridal party and they're like, well, where am I going to put them?
Yeah.
You know.
Where am I going to put 37 bridesmaids and 42 groomsmen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think seating them in the middle, and then you take those away, and the DJ comes, and then you dance under these gorgeous flowers all night.
Wow.
I mean, it'd
That's
be
cool.
It is magical.
It'd be so cool.
I shot a wedding where they did it was a tent structure, no tent, but they just covered it in flowers.
So great.
And it was amazing. And what's funny is they're in the industry, so I know they saw it somewhere else, but it was Nick Ardner and Courtney, right?
Yeah.
Nick and Courtney's
Nick and
wedding.
Courtney.
They sat under a tent of floral and magicness. And
That's insane.
And they had chandeliers hanging.
Yeah.
It was so cool. So cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, my question is, what is it like to work with your husband? Because he is in there, hands on.
And your kiddos.
Yeah.
I see the kiddos in the shop all the time hanging out. building tents and displays and
Yeah.
chopping up flowers to put in arrangements.
Writing their name on my displays.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got that. It's good. Actually, I don't think a lot of people know Aaron was a nurse for 10 years.
Okay.
He worked in the ER and just was really burnt out. And I was
Yep.
like, please just come to my side.
But
Come.
he's also used to high pressure then.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, he's not scared.
Yeah, he's like, this is so much easier. But I don't think we knew what it was going to be like. He worked nights.
Yeah.
So now we work every day.
Together.
Every day. And we have 2 offices and we share them. So we both have our own desks, which is nice. We sit back to back, which is hilarious. But we also, our chances are talking about your installation or your setup or who's going where, like at dinner or while we're cooking or while we're packing lunches for the next day. So that's kind of interesting. I think he has found this role of like the engineering part. So I'm like, okay, here's what I want to do. We're going to drape the gazebo at Hawthorne. And he's like, how? I'm like, I don't know.
Figure it out. That's your
Help me, please.
But like side note, like you will drape because some people are so intimidated by that. Like that is a service that you provide and you will come and drape. And like, I think people think only florist, but there are some other things besides like heavy decorating that you will do.
Yeah. And I think we get those requests brought to us by our, like, I never thought of myself as a draping florist, or something that I would do, but they asked and I was like, we could probably handle that. So then of course, Aaron and I are brainstorming on how we're going to do this and all that. And we figured it out together.
And he gets to carry the big heavy ladder.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Which is so helpful.
It's great.
Because you're like, I don't want to carry that.
Yeah, exactly.
Go get it, hubby.
Yeah. And I'll be down here laying my fabric out.
That's right.
So I think he doesn't, it's funny because I don't think he really ever saw himself in this role. Like when we went to market, he was like wandering around looking at different things. And he's like, I just can't believe I'm actually like looking at, fake hydrangeas and being like, this one looks good.
right, putting valid input into what you guys are going to do next.
Yeah. So it's been fun. I mean, again, it's fun. And now the kids are old enough. Kara's in the shop all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, she adores it. Sometimes she wants to come along to every reception and just,
she's helpful.
She is. She's getting to that age.
She's
where
really great with the
actually
broom. Like she just follows mom around. I love it.
I know.
But I think that's a side note that we have to say is like when wedding vendors show up with our kids, our kids are used to this. Like, don't have a heart attack. It's not a stressful thing.
Animals.
This is what our kids do every weekend. So like, while even there's other kids that are in the bridal party running around, like our kids know that they're there for a job. They're there for a purpose. And like,
and in my eyes, like, give me an 8-year-old because they will outwork any staff member. Like, you tell them what to do and they are on it.
Yeah, they're on it.
They have
Chad
this, like,
has
sense
given
of
my
pride.
kid a broom plenty of times.
100%. They know that they're going to come here and work.
Yeah.
And get rewarded normally. But
right.
yeah.
So don't have a heart attack. Like they
These
know
are
that they're supposed to be there.
family-owned businesses.
Yeah. And at first I thought it was like, oh, they aren't going to think I'm as professional, because I'm like toting my kids around everywhere. But I'm like, actually, it's just real life.
Yeah.
This
I
is
needed
real
2
life.
extra set of hands to hold that piece on the way here. So free labor.
Exactly.
Free labor. They open doors. They're 10 out of 10, man.
Yeah.
They know what
It's
they're
great.
doing. They know what they're doing.
What's your favorite part about being involved in weddings in general? Like, it doesn't have to be florals because that's what you live every day. But like, what do you love about just being involved in the industry?
I think too, we talked about it a little bit before, is just knowing that it's like a once in a lifetime experience, for people that really just like to be submersed and to know that like they're probably never going to do that again,
Right.
hopefully. But, and to know that that's something I made, like the bridal bouquets are my favorite thing to make because again, I kind of take it for granted a little bit, but it's the thing they're going to carry on their wedding day. I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds like really sappy and big, but
But it'll be in all of their pictures,
Yeah.
all of their memories.
It's
like
the fact that I get to make that with my hands that they picked out, I don't know. Again, like that's kind of getting a little like.
Yeah. I also love that
cool.
like the bridal bouquet can be like there's certain ways to honor obviously people who have passed or grandparents. And I love that the bridal bouquet has become such a cool way to do that. And it's so personal because you don't necessarily know it's there unless you're the bride. It's not some big elaborate display or something, but like, a charm or, grandma's handkerchief or like there's so many cool ways that people do that now that I don't think until brides really dig in or somebody points it out that people talk about. So what are some of the cool ways that you've seen people honor
things like that. Yeah. I think people feel like they have to be symbolic on like, oh, I have to have one flower in it for my, something like that. But also I think like the charms are definitely something that we've seen. Like people are starting to even put them in the boutonnieres.
Like the little picture charms.
Yeah. We've seen like little pieces, like even like a little note of a handwriting. So it doesn't even have to be something that you have to purchase. It could literally just be the tiniest thing.
really personal.
Yeah. And then even like from a bouquet standpoint, we see that from years to come. Like we're seeing that, say someone had lost their grandparents, but she loved her bridal bouquet. And then we like we recreate that,
So cool.
To honor her life. I don't know. It's a whole nother aspect that people are still going back to that bridal bouquet 20 years later after they get married for an anniversary bouquet.
Yeah.
And it just like, that's one part. It's not that you're going to recreate. You would probably do it with a cake, I
Yeah,
guess.
I've recreated a grandmother's cake.
So
and that
those,
was their ode to them and that was really cool because it was something that it didn't scream it.
Yeah.
Like it went along with it and it incorporated it. And it was just something that was really special for like the family members that knew that was like a hat notch to the people that they loved.
Yeah, I think it is cool.
And special mementos, like you guys aren't just a floral shop. Like you do engraving, like so you can do these kind of cool once in a lifetime pieces that become heirlooms that people pass down. Like tell us a little bit about some of that stuff that you guys do as well.
Yeah, so aside from being the wedding florist that we do, we have a full retail store. So we also have an engraving machine, so we can personalize and customize things. We actually had a bride take her mom's handwriting, and we engraved it on a leather bracelet. That then the bride didn't know this, but we tied it around the bouquet, and then that's how she gave it to her. But then she obviously wears it all the time. So again, from that personal standpoint, or it could be something as like simple as, hey, I want to engrave table numbers, or I want to do a favor for each table, or I want to do
in somebody's handwriting, or really cool special ways to incorporate that, and you offer all those services.
Yeah, and then if you want to do more of the traditional route, like the cups or bridesmaids tumblers or whatnot, we engrave all those too.
Because I'm sure you probably do a lot of like the groomsmen's gifts, like maybe engraving on flasks and all that
We
stuff.
just did lighters the other day. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that stuff is definitely like coming back, and it's cool to like. There's just things are so unpersonable in today's world. So when you do get something like personalized or engraved or finished a certain way, it's like, oh, like this is special. Like this is something that I may keep and pass down to my kids someday.
Well, I am seeing that it feels like people are doing less favors and more of like special gifts for the people in their bridal party, like something a little bit more personal to them with their name on it, like something that is engraved, like that. So they really focus it on the people that are like have been a part of the whole process and not necessarily everybody that's in the room.
Yeah, because I think too, like just being invited to the wedding is special. I think people like, they kind of like overlook that, so that you don't owe it to your guests necessarily to give them something. You've already gave them something by inviting them to your special day.
Right.
So I don't know, that's my opinion.
So inquiring minds want to know, Ashley.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have fresh flowers in your house all the time? Or when you go home, the last thing that you want to see is a flower?
No, I don't have flowers in my house. I don't even have plants.
I don't want to see plants. I don't want to see flowers.
So can you grow plants? Do you have a green thumb?
I do.
Okay.
I will say, again, talking about my very creative 6-year-old, Kara specifically, she just like claims everything. I tried to bring home tulips the other day, just fresh cut tulips, nice, put them in a vase. I don't normally like all the fluff, all the greens, because that's just what junks up your water.
Right.
But a simple bloom, I'm all here for that.
Yeah.
But she takes them to her room.
Yeah, she's like, these are mine, Mom.
Yeah. So
Thanks
I'm like,
for
well,
bringing
that
these
was,
home to me. Love you.
I mean, yeah, not saying that there was no point of that, but
No.
I mean, like, I want to enjoy them in the kitchen, not in her bedroom.
I'm jealous of the 6-year-old that gets fresh flowers in her bedroom every week. Like, that's a good life, man.
I know.
But that's what it's like to be a wedding vendor's kid, right?
Exactly. Yeah, she does.
So, in kind of wrapping things up, from a standpoint of trust and guidance, and your vendors, specifically your florist, what advice or what is something that you want to tell brides and grooms when working with them? Like, hey, I got you on this. These are some things you need to focus on. Like, what advice do you have?
Yeah, I think letting them, like giving them a guide, but not dictating everything is the key. It probably with any vendor, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But just letting them and it also comes from me too, understanding of what's important to them really matters. But letting them tell me kind of their color scheme and their idea in mind and what they would prioritize, then I can build what I think is what they should spend their money on, or what flowers to use, rather than them coming in with a list, and it makes it a little bit challenging.
So kind of creating a special recipe for each bride.
Yeah.
Given, here's my ingredients that I want included, and then here's what I'm going to come up with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I would rather them just like let me do that portion and just give me an overall feeling that you want.
Okay.
Usually I don't even ask for an actual inspiration picture right off the bat. I usually ask, like, what are your bridesmaids? What do you want it to feel like? And then what
Here's
kind
our
of
vibe, and
Yes.
I'm going to spit out some awesome ideas for you to choose
and then
from.
we kind of get down to like, okay, what kind of style do you like and all that. But I think really leaning into your vendors, it can also be a way for your planning to be not stressful, because you don't need control over every single element. You can let it go.
You're paying to trust these
Yeah.
people.
Well, then at the end of the day, if you have such a concrete, this has to be this has, you're going to notice when something goes wrong. Where if it's kind of more like you
Fluid.
let us take care of it, you have no idea. Like you have no idea, and your day is so much less stressful. So
And it's so much more enjoyable.
yeah. So I know 2 weeks isn't the preferred timeline. So real fast, if you had a preferred time that they would contact you, how long in advance? How far in advance would that be?
So I like to check up on our calendar about a year,
Okay.
just to see if it's open. I don't really, no offense, but I don't really want to meet with you until maybe like 6 months out.
Oh.
Maybe a first meeting. Even 3 months, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
And then, but I need to know that you're on my calendar
Yeah.
for that.
Need to hold the day.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe 30 days usually. So about 6 months, 30 days. I don't always do sometimes I only do one consultation.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like a whole thing. So it just kind of depends on the bride, but that's usually about it.
That's it.
Perfect. Okay, so something that we're going to do on every podcast, you're our first guest. Dun, dun, dun. I've done that twice now, and it feels scary doing the dun, dun, dun. They're going to be like, Chad always with the scary music. Dream wedding or your own wedding.
Okay.
You can choose. I feel like you're like, okay, I did my own wedding.
Yeah, it was 11 years ago.
Yeah. So if you were to get married, would you get married in Northwest Ohio? Or where would you get married? Location?
I would probably stay in town.
You would.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would love to elope, but like I can take a vacation anytime.
Yeah.
You know, if I was going to get married, I would probably want the people to be there that I want to be there. And I'm not going to make them travel. I don't know. That's my opinion. Like I said, if I want to elope
sweet.
or go,
You're a good person.
What about your wedding colors? What
I
would you
would
pick?
probably do like a really, really pale yellow.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like
yellow.
that. Something
Butter.
different.
I like yellow. I mean, it's my thing. So
Yeah.
probably yellow.
Okay, fun, weird idea. Let's just think floral wise, because you're the flower lady, that you've seen that you would want to include. Not that you've necessarily done, but something you've seen that you're like, that's awesome. I want to do that at my own wedding.
I think having 1,000,001 petals instead of like how people do the fireworks send off at the end of the
Yeah.
night. Like, I would rather people just throw flowers at me. I mean, you
so
know,
cool.
kind of like that send off, like
Yeah.
where people
and
used to
it's
throw rice.
colorful.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, the rice.
but you can't do that.
The poor pigeons.
Poor pigeons. Yeah.
What is the most important part of the day, in your opinion?
I think making time to soak it in.
Yeah.
Is probably, again, that sounds so cliche, but like,
Goes both of our answers.
Yeah.
yeah. And just like
Take a
making
minute.
time to like even remove yourself from the room, you know, because it's easy to just get caught up. And even though like Aaron and I have been married for what I feel like is a
Yeah.
long time. And I don't even remember doing that at my own wedding. But now that I'm in the industry, I'm like, oh my gosh, it goes so fast.
So fast.
You know, and I just would love to tell people like, and they're like, yeah, I know it goes fast. I'm like, no, it goes fast. So,
Well, Ashley, thank you for coming. I hope we answered any questions that people
Yeah.
have about flowers, and I hope it wasn't too scary.
no, it was great.
Good. Well, we thank you for giving us the inspiration, giving us a little, behind the scenes look at what it takes to make wedding flowers come to life.
Awesome.
And we hope that people learned something.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks for listening to Celebrate at 19 Hawthorne, the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Join us next time.